For today's session, I'm going to just recap over the sales process and how it's changed over time, and then provide you with some insights into how I go about bringing personalization into our own sales process and give you some ideas on how you can go and implement this into your own sales process going forward. So, firstly, before I begin, just really wanted to introduce myself. So all us salespeople, we love to talk about ourselves. So I don't really want to break the norm there. So I'm Caroline, Head of Solutions here at Digital 22. And I've been here for just over 3 years, it is now. And it's really my role to work with prospects to understand their goals, their challenges, and how we can best support them going forward. And then a little bit just about myself outside of work. So I'm a mum to my two beautiful children here, who, as most parents can appreciate, they do tend to take up the majority of my time. But when I do get a tiny little bit of free time, I do like to do a lot of training. I attempt to do a lot of CrossFit and a lot of running. And I think these two pictures always summarize my CrossFit journey, in that I'm always attempting to do it, but actually I spend most of the time dying on the floor, it tends to be. But as I say, that's enough about me, and let's delve in and look at how sales has changed over the last few years. So let's just recap the sales process because it has massively evolved over the last couple of years, especially. So previously, the power had always really been with the sales professional. Everyone has a perception of what these type of individuals are, in that they're very money focused, commission driven, cheesy, non trustworthy individuals who, at the end of the day, they just want to close a deal as quickly as possible. They don't really care about what the end result is and whether it's right or wrong for the prospect, because they just want that quick win. So they'll always try and push through the deal, whether it's right or wrong for that prospect. And as I say, that has really resulted in a big lack of trust when it comes towards sales professionals. And HubSpot actually carried out a study a few years ago comparing a number of different occupations and the level of trust people have towards them. And that study actually demonstrated how individuals have a massive lack of trust towards sales professionals because they actually trust a politician more so than a sales professional, which, especially in today's world, it is crazy to think that could be the case. So, us sales professionals, we really are facing an uphill battle. The damage has really been done by the old school, cheesy, non trustworthy individuals. And the power has really shifted from that most recently. And the power is nowadays more with the buyer because of that lack of trust, really, towards those old school individuals. And it's meant that we've had to change our approach when it comes to sales. And the best illustration that I can give you of that to illustrate the shift in the power process is I can remember many, many years ago, as a child, my parents would drag me to the car showroom to purchase a new car. And we would be there hours upon hours as that car show salesman would go through every detail around the spec of the car, what was available. And we'd be there, as I say, for hours going through what was available. And it was a case that the car salesman dictated to my parents what they needed to purchase. Whereas nowadays, that process has massively changed. And the power is with the buyer because we do our research beforehand. And this actually happened to me a few months ago. I purchased the car and I'd done my research. I knew what was available, I knew the spec, I knew the scope, I knew everything around the purchase. And when I was in that position, ready to go into the car showroom to make the purchase, it was a case of I was dictating to the salesman what I wanted. And I was in and out the car showroom but within 15 minutes on my way home. Because as I say, that power had shifted. It was no longer a case of the salesperson dictating to me what I needed and what they felt was right for me. I'd done the research, so I knew what was available. So the whole sales process has massively changed, and that the power is now with us, the buyers. So it's really important that as a sales professional, we adapt our process because it's not our job to close a deal as quickly as possible. It's our job to be able to help and advise prospects along their own journey. And by adapting our process, you're going to be able to relate more to the prospect and they'll warm to you. And people buy from people nowadays as well. So it's really important that we bring the human element back into the selling process because we want to win back the trust and add value to the prospect. So we want to repair the damage that has been done by those old school sales individuals and really build on that relationship going forward. So, how do we actually go about and achieve this? Well, for today's session, I really wanted to bring in my own experience in how I actually go about achieving this and bringing personalization into our own sales process. So, I do it in two ways. I do it through the relationship that I'm able to build with a prospect, and then through the power of video. So, if we delve into these in a little bit more detail, and firstly, if we look at the relationship side of things, so to create a strong relationship with a prospect, we need to personalize the experience they have with us. 80% of people are more likely to purchase when you offer that personalized sales process. So it's vital that we adapt and we create a unique experience for each of our prospects. So, the way that I like to create this strong relationship with a prospect is through the power of storytelling. So, storytelling allows me to create a much more personalized experience for the prospect that they can relate to. Mastering the art of storytelling can be so impactful and provide you with so much opportunity. It's a technique that all us sales professionals need to learn, and we need to apply it within our sales process because it's going to allow you to create that unique experience. And it doesn't happen overnight. It's not something that you can just quickly apply. It takes time to learn that process and evolve the mastering of the storytelling and bringing it into your sales process. But by telling stories, what we're able to do is we're able to win back the trust from prospects that we've previously lost, and from the previous damage from the old school tactics that have been applied, because the prospects can relate a lot more to the stories that we're able to tell. So for me, during the initial engagement with a prospect, I want them to learn more about me as an individual rather than Caroline, head of solutions. I want to bring in that human element into our sales process. So it's really key that when I start to engage with a prospect, that they get to know me as an individual, because at the end of the day, I want them to enjoy talking to me. I want to have that relationship. So I'll always build in things about the kids, things about what I do outside of work, because at the end of the day, I want them to see that I'm genuine, that I really, really do care about the outcome and about the success that they have with us. And it's my role to not win the deal. I don't want to close the deal as quickly as possible. It's my job to advise and support them on their own journey. Um, but always be mindful that when we start to apply the art of storytelling in everything that we do, just always be mindful that we need to ensure that the stories are relatable and we're always going to be adding value. I mentioned this at the start, us sales professionals, we love to talk about ourselves. It's our favorite subject. We can go off on a big tangent. So just always remember to pull yourself back in and to make it relatable for that prospect and their current situation. So, once we've mastered the art of storytelling, the beauty of it is it can be applied across the whole sales process. One area that I tend to use it is when I'm building the rapport with a new prospect. So, for me, when I start to engage with a prospect, I really set myself these four key factors that I want to include within my own storytelling. I'm always going to be personal within the story because, again, as I mentioned, I want to bring that human element into selling. I want the prospect to get to know me as an individual rather than just a sales professional. I want them to see that I'm not just a money hungry salesperson wanting to close the deal, that I actually do care. I'll always be honest in everything that I say. I'll always be truthful on the advice that I provide them. And don't get me wrong, sometimes we're not the right solution for a prospect. And it's important that I tell them that from the outset. If I feel that we can't support them the way that they want us to, then I need to tell them that, because just because we're not the right partner for them now doesn't mean that 6 to 12 months down the line we might be that right fit partner for them. But it's important that during those initial engagements, those initial interactions with the prospect, that I'm truthful, I'm honest with them, because it's setting the foundations of how we can work together in that long term as well. And then I'll also incorporate some of my own experience. So I want the prospect to relate a lot more to me. So I want to get across to them that in previous sales roles, I've been in that situation. I understand what it's like to go digging for leads each month to try and close deals which aren't necessarily there. So I'll always bring in and include some of my own experience because, again, that's really going to demonstrate to them that I fully understand the situation that they're in. And then, probably my primary goal from when I'm engaging with a prospect is all about building that trusting relationship with them. So it's really bringing all these factors together, building that trust with the prospect so they can see that I'm not just a typical sales rep looking to close a deal as quickly as possible. I want them to work with us in the long term, and I want to build that trust. So it's really, really key that I focus on that and I get across that within the stories that I look to tell. So, building the rapport is just one way that you can use storytelling. It can, as I say, can be applied throughout the whole sales process. It can be used to differentiate yourselves from your competitors, deal with challenging questions, show company value. They're just a few of the other ways that you can apply storytelling. But really, if you master the art of storytelling, it can provide you with so much opportunity because it's going to give you the capabilities to change the way that people think towards you guys. So it's going to give you a unique position when you're looking to make the sale. So building rapport, as I say, is one way that I tend to use and to use storytelling in our sales process to make it a lot more personal. But one other area that you can focus on is using it to differentiate yourselves from your competitors. Now, we've all been there when we're looking to make a purchase of value. We will all naturally shop around and look at our competitors. And that's something that everyone does. So we shouldn't shy away from that. And it's something which I always encourage our prospects to do because I want them to be 110% confident that when they decide to move forward with us, it's the right decision for them. Because again, that's going to set the foundations of how you can work together, and it's going to ensure that you're going to have that strong relationship going forward. The way that you can apply storytelling in this type of scenario, though, it's actually referred to as the fight phase. Within the fight phase, you have two types of stories that you can really use to differentiate yourself. So, the first type of story is known as an insight story. So, what we want to do here with this type of story is you want to demonstrate to the prospect that you fully understand their current situation. Now, you do need to be really, really careful with this type of story that you don't come across as a bit of a smart arse, because that's going to just naturally put you on the back foot there. So you do need to be really, really careful that when you're explaining, talking through your story in this sense, the key is that you want to demonstrate to the prospect that you understand their situation that they're in. You've dealt with this before. You're fully aware of this problem. It's not something that has just come out of the blue. You've seen it before, you've dealt with it, and you've successfully overcome this challenge, which is really, really key because the aim of this type of story is we want to build trust with the prospect. We want to give you that unique position that you can reassure your prospect that you've dealt with this and you've successfully dealt with this type of problem before, because again, they'll relate a lot more to how you can look to help them. And then the next type of story within the fight phase is known as a success story. And this story, it takes the insight story one step further. So you've identified the problem with the prospect. You've reassured them that you've dealt with this before. And now it's your time to wow them, to demonstrate to them the success that you were able to generate for this prospect. So within this story, you're going to bring some drama. You're going to clearly identify the pain that this prospect was in previously, and then the tactics that you deployed in order to support them to overcome this challenge. And it's really key that you can wow them when you start telling the story. But again, just be mindful that when you start telling this story, it's not a case study. It's not a case of, your facts and figures are being thrown at the prospect. It's a narrative told from the perspective of the client. And that's really, really key when you start to put this story together to help in this situation. Because by doing a story told from the client's perspective, again, you're going to be able to add so much more value to that prospect. So as I say, storytelling, once we've mastered it, it's going to give you so much more opportunity, and it's going to really stand you out when you're applying personalization into your sales process. It's not something that can be quickly applied. It takes time, and it's constantly you're learning, evolving your stories. But I really recommend this book by Mike Adams, Seven Stories. It certainly helps me on my own journey of learning how to apply storytelling to the sales process. And Mike goes through in a lot more detail all the different types of scenarios and how you can use storytelling to benefit yourselves and create that personal connection. But what I love about this book is Mike uses a great analogy, which just to me, it clearly illustrates the power that storytelling can have. And it's actually a fishing analogy of all things. So, without a secure connection, you'll get a false bite and the fish will break away. When you hook properly, you started the process that can lead to new business. You won't land them all. Sometimes the fish will jump off the hook. Sometimes your line will break because your position isn't strong enough. But with a proper hook, you give yourself a chance. You're in the game. If they trust your intent and believe you have sufficient authority to help them, they may just allow themselves to be hooked. And to me, I think that really just sums up the power that storytelling can have once you've mastered it and once you can apply it within your own sales process. And it's certainly a way that you can really personalize and tailor the experience for the prospect. So, the second way that I will use to bring in personalization into our sales process is through the power of video. So, we're all facing the same daily challenges at the moment with the current pandemic. Everyone's fighting for attention in a crowd. Really, we want to gain as much feedback from people as possible. We want to stand out within the crowd. And one stat from HubSpot, which I heard last week at Inbound, just shows the importance of resonating with the prospect, because at the moment, emails have increased by 75%. So it's really, really vital that we adapt our own process and stand out amongst the crowd, as I say. And a video strategy is a great way to achieve this, because we've all been there, haven't we? We've all had those long winded emails that you just get lost. The message gets lost and you just naturally will switch off. So it's really, really important that we adapt our own process to meet the buyer's needs and to support them in what they're asking for, really. And this is something which Digital 22, we've actually been working in this manner for a couple of years now, and we implemented a video first approach in everything that we do. And I mean, especially at the moment, it certainly supported me in creating much more of a personalized approach in everything that I do. Because part of our sales process is actually meeting people face to face. And obviously, we just can't do that at the moment. So the benefits are massive when we come to implementing video, because it's allowing me to build trust with prospects, to build that relationship with them. And also over time, it saves time as well, because you're able to answer complex topics a lot easier, a lot quicker. And I don't think I've ever heard a prospect turn around and say, thanks for the email, but actually, I'd rather have a long-winded, sorry, thanks for the video. I'd rather have a long-winded email full of attachments. It just doesn't happen. People want quick responses and quick feedback to them. So when it comes to video, I actually use it across the whole sales cycle. And don't get me wrong, when I first started doing video, I used to hate it. I used to hate being in front of the video. I mean, who wants to sit and listen to my Burnley accent all day? But for me, video has been a godsend. It's supported me, as I say, to bring in personalization. And I'm actually dyslexic, so sometimes writing those emails can be a complete disaster for me, and the message can get really lost. So for me, it helps in creating videos which can resonate with the end user, the prospect there. It can answer their questions a lot easier, a lot faster. And nowadays, I tend to do around 10 to 15 videos a day. And I do make mistakes when I start doing the videos. I mean, nobody is perfect, and it's important that we don't hold ourselves accountable to trying to strive for perfection, because that just isn't the case. By making video mistakes when you're doing videos, prospects can relate a lot more to you, because at the end of the day, we all say quite a lot, we all stutter, we all have a brain freeze from now and again. It's just human nature. So probably one of my biggest tips for you guys is when you start to implement video is don't take yourselves too seriously. Enjoy it. Don't worry about making mistakes. Don't sit there and repeat the video for 20, 30 takes till you try and get that perfection, because nobody's perfect. And again, it's going to make it a lot more relatable for the prospect by just making these little mistakes. And sometimes the outtakes videos can be just as great as the actual video as well. So just enjoy making it. Tell them a story as well. So bring in the power of storytelling, which I mentioned earlier, onto the video, because again, that's going to strengthen the relationship and going to be able to make it a lot more relatable for the prospect going forward. And then always remember to focus on solving the problem the prospect has and not selling. Remember, we don't just want to have that quick win. We don't want to close a deal quickly. It's all about the long-term relationship and supporting the prospect on their own journey to ensure that they have all the information to make the right decision for them. Whether that's us or somebody else, it's just important that we support them going forward. And then always remember, as I say with storytelling, always remember to add value to the prospect when you're doing the videos. So build in their current situation and make it again so it's relatable to them on how you can look to help them going forward. And then keep the video short and sweet. Don't go on too long. Make it short so we can keep them engaged as well. So we don't want to have too long of a video going off on a tangent, because you'll have the same impact as what you would if you sent a long email. You'll just end up losing the prospect there. So just to summarize my advice, if you want to go and bring personalization into your own sales process, I'd really look to focus on these two areas for you. So cementing the relationship through the power of storytelling and introducing video into every stage of your sales process. So you've listened to me enough now, waffling on. So before I go, I just really wanted to leave you with a little bit of a challenge. Um, as I say, storytelling, it takes time, it takes practice. You need to learn and evolve how you can go about introducing this into your sales process. So start that journey. Put together a quick video on creating your own story. And I've bobbed in my email there, and feel free to send this to me, because I'd love to be able to help you guys and offer any help and support that I can. So feel free to put that together and send it to me, and I'll certainly come back with feedback as quickly as I can. So finally, just a very big thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to me. I hope that's been beneficial for you, and I hope you've been able to get some insights into how you can look to bring personalization into your own sales process.